against it. Whereas under PR, if you don't give one party a proper majority, they're forced to share power with others. Thank you.
That was a party political broadcast by the Liberal Democrats.
You're watching Anglia Television with the latest national and international news from ITN.
From ITN News at 10 with Dermot Murnaghan.
Clinton's Ulster Crusade, peace is your destiny. Search for clues after hundreds die in plane disaster. Doctor's superbug warning over too many antibiotics. And the student prince, Harry's lessons start at Eton. Good evening. President Bill Clinton today paid his second visit to Northern Ireland and told its people not to allow the chance of peace to slip away. He said it won't come again in our lifetimes. Mr. Clinton, with Tony Blair and flanked always by unionist and nationalist politicians, went to Belfast, then to Omagh, where he was moved to tears by accounts of last month's bomb. And tonight to Armagh. Our Ireland correspondent John Irvine reports.
President Bill Clinton, a man who's tried to direct Northern Ireland along the road to peace, today walked this province's most bloodied street. With him, the Prime Minister, who explained how 3 weeks ago 28 people were tricked into the Omagh death trap. There are no votes for either of them here. What was on display was the common humanity of two world leaders. They came to provide sympathy and support. For the President of the United States, it was the most poignant moment in an extraordinary day. His first contact with the Northern Ireland public was earlier in Belfast, and after the uncertainty of Moscow, the warmth of the welcome here was unambiguous. The President looked tired, but this was perhaps a brief respite for a leader under real pressure. In Belfast's Waterfront Hall, an audience of more than 2,000 stood and applauded. Mr. Clinton brought with him the message that peace must be made to last.
And to the people of Northern Ireland, I say, it is your will for peace, after all, that has brought your country to this moment of hope. Do not let it slip away. It will not come again in our lifetimes.
There were tributes to many peacemakers today, people like Senator George Mitchell and the Secretary of State Mo Mowlam. She was given a standing ovation when she took her seat in the auditorium. Local political leaders thanked Mr. Clinton.
President, you have shown the solidarity that spans the longest day and the darkest night. We firmly believe that a bright tomorrow dawns for all of us.
The President shook hands with leading politicians, including Gerry Adams, whom he later praised for his statement of 2 days ago that violence must now be a thing of the past.
Those words were music to ears all across the world, and they paved the way for the progress still to come. Thank you, sir.
When the President flew in this morning, it was for an unprecedented second time. Unlike any of his predecessors, Mr. Clinton has been closely involved in the pursuit of peace. He'd returned to Northern Ireland to cajole and encourage once more. This is, of course, a high-profile visit. The presidential entourage, the cavalcade travelling around Northern Ireland is huge. But the trip is intended to be more subdued than the euphoric visit of 3 years ago. More reflective, perhaps, given recent events in Northern Ireland. In particular, the massacre in Omagh. His first engagement was at Stormont, home of the province's new power-sharing assembly. Accompanied by Mr. Blair, the President met David Trimble and Mr. Mallon, the unionist and nationalist politicians chosen to head up the fledgling administration.
So where are we, guys?
In private, the President was told that there's now a new mood after the Omagh massacre and that the peace process is moving in the right direction.
The President of the United States, Mr. William Jefferson Clinton, and the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Tony Blair.
The The two leaders were warmly received by the 108 members of the Assembly, nationalists and republicans, unionists and loyalists. The President has followed a hectic schedule. He scrapped a lunch appointment to fulfill his other commitments, the last of which was a visit to the city of Armagh, Ireland's ecclesiastical capital. When he spoke this evening, it was clear he'd been moved by what he'd seen and heard throughout the day.
Out of the unimaginably horrible agony of Omagh, the people said, it is high time somebody told these people that we are through with hate, through with war, through with destruction. It will not work anymore.
It's clear that Bill Clinton believes he has an affinity with people here, and they have responded to his presence. Beleaguered at home, America's president must have felt that in Northern Ireland, he was amongst friends. John Irvine, News at 10, Belfast.
As we heard there, the President talked of the unimaginably horrible agony of Omagh. ITN's Mark Austin was there today, and he talked to some of the people the President talked to.
In the late summer sun, the people of Omagh held out their hands to a president who had come to share their suffering. Not for them cynical theories about why he's here, deflecting attention from problems at home or whatever. Instead, his very presence in Omagh was enough.
I think it's been a boost for everyone in Omagh. We have very much appreciated it. It shows sympathy with the people of Omagh, and we're very pleased at that.
President Clinton had earlier spent more than an hour in a private meeting with the injured and the bereaved, including Michael Gallagher, who lost his son Aidan in the blast.
He was very, very human about it. He just said, that he was extremely sorry, and he knew that there were no words that he could use that would take the pain away.
But not everyone in Omagh supports President Clinton's visit. Some believe it's time for the people here to be left alone to rebuild their lives. It's time, they say, to let the healing begin. Flowers and tributes still line the main bridge in Omagh, so fresh is the atrocity in people's minds. Did you know any of the...
We knew a lot of the people.
And despite President Clinton's visit, despite an ongoing peace process, there's still deep despair here.
Like, you'd even be afraid to go out again, to do wherever you're going and to work and places like that. You're on the edge, uneasy about, everything that's happened.
And Councillor Paddy McGowan says for those who are suffering, the President's visit has come too soon.
I think it'll traumatise them again. I hope I'm wrong, but I would have preferred it would have been in a couple of months down the line.
And today also some resentment at the way their tiny town was taken over by America's Secret Service. The few thousand allowed a glimpse of Mr. Clinton had to put up with the strictest security. Before he left, the President pledged to help Omagh, and they'll want to keep him to his word. Tonight he's moved on, and this town is alone again with its suffering. Mark Austin, News at 10, Omagh.
The government's new anti-terrorism legislation, prompted by the Omagh bomb, has tonight moved another stage closer to becoming law. It was debated in the Lords throughout the day and was given a second reading without a vote a few minutes ago. The bill now goes back to the Commons for a third and final reading and is expected to become law by tomorrow. Investigations have started into the cause of the catastrophic Swissair MD-11 crash off the Canadian coast last night, in which all 229 on board were killed. They included 6 Britons and the founding director of the World Health Organization's global program on AIDS, the American Dr. Jonathan Mann. The plane was on a scheduled flight from New York to Geneva. An hour after takeoff, the captain reported smoke in the cockpit and diverted to Halifax in Nova Scotia to attempt an emergency landing. The aircraft disappeared from radar screens and crashed into the sea 20 miles south of the airport, off a place called Peggy's Cove. ITN's Colin Baker is there.
There's still a couple of hours of daylight searching left, but this is no longer a rescue mission. This is now an operation to recover the bodies of those who died and to bring in as much aircraft wreckage as possible to find out quickly why flight SR-111 came down here in the Atlantic last night. Just minutes from safety, Swissair Flight 111 plunged into the dark waters off Nova Scotia. Fishing craft of all sizes with Canadian warships led the search for survivors. They found wreckage, but no sign of life. The sound of the doomed jet hitting the sea had woken hundreds of people living along this coast.
Heard a loud, it wasn't even an explosion, it was almost like an air wave sort of hit the top of the house and the windows shook.
Emergency teams rushed to the coast hoping to play a part